I begin by advising myself and all of you to adopt the taqwa and the piety of God, as is the best of provisions. Honoring Black History Month in February is an excellent opportunity to learn about the struggle and the achievement of African Americans and their creativity and contribution to human civilization, and also to reaffirm the struggle and determination to fight prejudice and racism. The verse that I started off with is from a chapter known as Hujurat, chapter number 49, verse number 13, in which God says, "O people, we created you from a single pair of a male and a female, and made you into tribes and nations so that you may know each other. Verily, the most honored of you in the sight of God is the one who is most righteous of you." With that said, today, Islam is the fastest growing religion in the United States. The majority of the populations embracing Islam are African Americans. Why are African Americans embracing Islam in such large numbers? Is it because of Malcolm X's pilgrimage? Or the intrinsic nature of Islamic human equality? When people think of Africa, they think of blacks, they think of slavery, they think of civil wars, and they think of AIDS epidemic. The intellectual discourse on topics like African history in the Islamic context is inadequate and absent from the history books. Today, more than 50% of the people in Africa are Muslims. And the Africans brought over to America in the slave trade, many came from Muslim families. With this spirit in mind, if you dig into the history of Islam, one of the early Muslim companions of our Prophet, you're reminded of Bilal ibn Rabah. Bilal, whose story is known to every child growing up in the Muslim household, an Ethiopian slave living in Mecca, became a leading companion of Prophet. Bilal was a slave freed when Prophet Muhammad bought him, who at the time of slavery in Arabia used to buy slaves and then free them. Bilal is associated with a very important decision taken by the Prophet concerning the issue of race and color. Prophet chose a black man to perform the adhan. You just heard before we began our program the call to the prayer. That's called adhan. Bilal was chosen for that task. His decision was based on the Quranic teaching against racial discrimination, which explains the rationale behind God's creation of humanity in different tribes, colors, religion, and race, so that we know each other. When you see someone like that, you find out, you learn about them, and you know each other. Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam chose Bilal to be the first mu'adhin, caller to prayer, not because of his racial lineage, nor his power or wealth, because Bilal possessed neither one of those things. Prophet chose him. He was chosen because of his piety, character, and honor, even though his pronunciation of Arabic, of what we have known, was not accurate. Bilal was to become one of the greatest people in the history of Islam. His name adorns the pages of Islamic history as a reminder to all those who incite discord and disunity among people, races, and nations, but especially to Muslims, not to transgress the will of God in their behavior and thinking. Sadly, as we reflect on the current religious practices and social conditions of so many Muslim communities in the United States, we find them divided along the artificial lines of nationality, families, ethnic identity, and culture. In celebrating or honoring Black History Month, we should be able to include that rich Islamic history that has been hidden from us in the midst of Islamophobia that has marked out Muslims and Islam as medieval and uncivilized. African Americans have been in America for a long time. You heard the history, a brief history lesson about it. Not as takers, but as contributors. And it is worth celebrating this rich heritage. And as an American Muslim, I hold dear to my heart to enlighten both young and old, the black and non-black, toward the truth and social justice, and pursue the vision of making America not red or blue or black or white states, but rather a better place to live with equal opportunity for all. إن أحسن الحديث وأبلغ الموعظة كتاب الله. أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر.